What are the best glute exercises for low back strength endurance? That's what we're going to be looking at in this tutorial. We're also going to be trying to understand why the glutes are so important for the lower back as well. If you want to build your low back strength endurance, please do hit the link below in the description and you'll go through to my How to Build Strength and Endurance 12-week online program, where you'll be able to do exactly that using these types of exercises to build your lower back. Exercise number 1 is the bird dog. Very important exercise because it accesses so many different muscles within the lower back and the posterior chain, but most importantly the glutes. So when we come into the position, the full exercise is into that position, so opposite arm and leg are extended. Now the important part when performing this exercise is not to lift the leg and the arm to arch the lower back. That only puts extra and unnecessary stress on the lower back and can cause it more problems further down the line. So when we lift the arm and the leg, what we're doing is we're pushing the arm forward and we're pushing the leg backwards like that to maintain that position. We're holding there, and also we're actively engaging the glute to be able to get the most from it. So what we're basically looking for is a straight line through the shoulders, the hips and the foot. So we are into that position, again getting the access there. What we would then do is hold that for a period of time and then we would come into this position. Now, why are the glutes so important for the lower back? Because it's what the lower back sits upon. So it's the support for the lower back. So what we need to be able to do is get active glutes to be able to support the lower back and also pull on the thoracolumbar fascia to pull it taut, so it's able to stabilize the lumbar spine by pulling taut and holding the vertebra in place. So exercise number 1 is the bird dog. Exercise number 2 is the shoulder bridge. Now this is a little bit more concentrated in the glutes, but again what we want to be able to do is come down into this position, lead on the floor, and then as we lift the hips we squeeze the glute. So you now, where with the bird dog it was just one glute on each side as we lift, but now we're getting both glutes activated, and we can also aim at glute medius, glute minimus by just pushing the knees outwards, which will get the muscles at the side of the hip. And again, what we're doing here is actively squeezing them. As we lift, they should start to squeeze. And then what we're able to do is get both the glutes working at the same time. And again, this is there to build the hips, which will then support the lower back as we go through the different movements, which we're going to start doing in the next exercises. But for now, the bridge is the second exercise that you want to just build the muscles. So the bird dog and the bridge are there just to try and build and activate the muscles. Once we've got the muscles activated, we can then start adding movement into it, which we're going to do in the next 2 exercises. And exercise number 3 is the good morning. So I've got this lightly weighted bar. Now this obviously could be a heavier bar, but I've got this lightly weighted bar, and we're going to place it on the back, on the top of the back, so the bottom of the shoulders. So what we're then going to do is we're basically going to hip hinge, so pushing the hips back, coming into this position, and then up. Now, why is an exercise like this so good for the glutes, which is then so good for the lower back? Well, when we go into that hip hinge, what we're starting to do now is we're starting to develop the hips. We're starting to develop movement in the hips, and we're starting to train the body to use the hips more than the lower back. So when we start accessing the glutes, which are bigger, stronger muscles than are in the lower back, what we're able to do is get that functional aspect to it. So when we lift, when we carry, or when we lift and bend and come back up into position, we start using the glutes and not the lower back. So we use the good morning as that initial stage to develop that hip hinge as we come back, and then we squeeze hips as we get to the top. We try not to push the hips through, but we just squeeze hips as we get to the top, and then we come back down into position and we squeeze hips at the top. So again, we're getting the hip hinge, which is important to help support and remove stress from the lower back, and then we get the muscle activation of the glutes. So the general story of this tutorial is build the hips, and that will help build the lower back. Exercise number 4 is the deadlift. So I've got these 2 kettlebells here. So with regards to the deadlift, it's lifting a dead weight from the floor. So we would come back into this position, down, so very similar to the good morning that we've just done, except the weight is now on the floor rather than on the back. Why do we put the weight on the lower back, on the upper back? Because it just allows the muscles of the lower back to start working, because we've got that lever where they're able to do it, but we don't move the lower back, we keep it in position and allow the weight and the lever to be able to get the muscle activation. With regards to the deadlift, what we want to be able to do is, again, we've started with the hip hinge in the good morning, now we're going deeper into that hip hinge, bit of a knee bend, and then lifting. And again, the lever of you lifting with the arms, obviously it's reduced because the weight is closer to the body, but as we come up, that's going to access the muscles of the lower back. So we're now starting to integrate them together with the movement. So we've got the hip hinge, which is doing most of the work. We've got the glutes doing most of the work with regards to the lift, and then the lower back is just holding everything in position, supporting the spine, reducing stress on the spine, because there's minimal to no movement there. So as we come back, we hinge at the hip, we get the hands down by the handles, little bend of the knee, keep the head and the chest up, lift, and again squeeze at the top. Again, we can do it in a different way. We can have a narrower stance, and we can come into this position as if it's some shopping bags or a suitcase or whatever it needs to be. So the deadlift is a very important exercise, because not only does it access all the muscles, what it also does is it creates that motor control, motor program to be able to lift, carry, whatever it needs to, or lift and bend, which allows us to carry that much more effectively, because we're using our muscles in the right way. And if we can do that, that's going to build our lower back. So by building the glutes, we're building the lower back. If you've enjoyed this content, please do hit the like button. If you've got a comment or a question, please do leave it in the comment section below. If you've learned something new, hit the thanks button. And if you want to watch more tutorials than this, please do hit the subscribe button and the bell icon.